Well, I'm going to start by assuming you are familiar with the INTJ personality type. Now I would like to discuss what it is like living with an ESTP as my soulmate and life's partner. My wife and I were newly engaged. It was early 1975, and the Navy had cut orders for me to go to Great Lakes for 3 months of school, while my lady would be staying in Portland, Oregon. It was our first real separation, and I can still picture the tears running down her cheeks when I told her about it. It broke my heart to see her so sad. Still some time before I had to leave, and I was visiting her one evening, and she said we had to go to a dinner with some friends. And it was pretty common. I didn't arrange dinners with friends. And if we had a social event, she was the one that's going to set it up. So I just kind of, like a puppy dog, I was following along. She said, okay, we got dinner. Well, okay, we'll go to dinner. Anyway, and this evening, and she said we had a dinner to go with some friends. Well, I knew the friends, they'd be forgiving if we were a few minutes late. And there was a baseball game on that I wanted to see. And it was getting late in the game. And that clock was moving forward just a bit too quickly. And she thought, that dinner is not all that critical. And if we're a bit late, it won't be a big deal. And so my thinking little mind set to work. And I decided, aha! And if I go through the apartment and set all the clocks backward 30 minutes, and she'll never notice. And I can see who wins the game. And this is one of those events that to this day, she comments, and all the signs were there, but I married you anyway. And then she laughs. She has a pretty long list of those items, by the way. And so, fortunately, I missed a timepiece, and she found me out. And we were in the car and on time on the way. And I had to check later to find out who won the game. And the problem was, my little socially minded angel had arranged a surprise going away party for me. She had coaxed my aunt and uncle, my best friend from high school and his wife, and some of my buddies from the ship, along with some other friends that I'd met because of her. And the place was jammed when I got there, and they were waiting for us. Okay, honey, you can slap me now. I earned it. And the very thought of a surprise party for me wasn't even on my planet, and let alone my radar. And that is what life with an ESTP can be like. She has always thought about people and doing things. I swear, from my perspective, she is like a mythical creature with magical powers. She had physical talents as well. Beyond her being a knockout to look at, is what first caught my eye. And she call it aesthetic intelligence, ability in sports. She did something I had never run into before in a girlfriend. She was a good diver from the high dive. She could wipe up the tennis court with me, and I skated like a pro. I never even tried to catch up with her diving, and I simply couldn't catch up with her ice skating even after years of trying. She is still way better than I am on the ice. I did finally pass her up on the tennis court, but it took a while. And style was more correct, but I was just stronger and faster, and that made the difference. But she was no pushover. She was unlike any girl I'd ever known before. And another interesting talent is her ability to organize things physically. We used to have a phrase in the Navy about putting 10 pounds of stuff into a 5-pound sack. And that is my wife all over. She is amazing. For me to match what she does, if at all, would take me far longer. I would have to think it through. She just looks at the stuff and sets to work. When we bring in groceries from the store, I let her work out how to fit it into the freezer and the icebox. Just looking at it, there's no way that much stuff is going to fit into that tiny space, if I were doing it. And I never doubt that she'll make it work. She always does. And sense of humor, her ability to laugh at herself and enjoy almost any situation seems incredible to me. I have seen her work a microphone with a group like a pro. She has no fear of failure. She actually lights up when she is standing there talking to a group. And whether it's 10 people or 500 people doesn't matter to her. And as a technical instructor, I got up in front of groups and gave lectures every day. It was my job. But I knew what I was going to say weeks before I gave the lecture. and had every I dotted and every T crossed. Way before I got to the podium, I knew all the many questions I would be tossing out to the class in order to keep them engaged with the lecture. My wife could stand up in front of the same group of students, even if she had never met them before, and talk to them for a lecture period about anything at all, and they wouldn't fall asleep, and she would be laughing and having a good time all the way. And they wouldn't learn a thing about electronics or how to fix the machine I was teaching them to fix, and they wouldn't be bored, and she wouldn't be embarrassed to wing it. And she has a gift with people. My oldest son is like that too, but when my wife gets into a line at the store, she knows the people around her by the time she is checked out. And if she walks into a party with people she has never met before, she knows them all by the time she leaves. She even meets the introverts against the wall, and so she takes them as a challenge to open them up. In our last family reunion, she took on my cousin as a personal challenge. And she's as nice as the day is long, but he doesn't talk much. He will sit by himself and watch and listen to others without saying a word. And my wife feels that the universe is out of balance when that is going on. She kept after him until he was talking to her. And they say that an ESTP is fun, active, and charming. Her introverted thinking, which someone from the outside might miss, is incredible. And if you give her a decision to make, she is on it, and it is done. In her business, she made snap decisions when problems came up, and those decisions were nearly always the right ones. Her mind is always going in ways I don't come close to understanding. And I look at a problem, I look at the challenges and the paths to solution and move to make it happen. And I stop, I think, and then I act. I often will get it right the first time. My wife will grab the thing and try something. If it doesn't work, she hits it with something else. She always asks me, why do I always have to do everything more than once? When I tell her, she just glares at me. I don't want to live like that, she snaps. And she's like a pot on the stove, happily bubbling away, always busy with something. Whether it is important, serious, or frivolous doesn't matter, as long as it is something. Her tertiary extroverted feeling is always evident, and she tends to clash with my lack of that attribute. My feeling is also tertiary, but it is introverted. And she looks at things as how they are, and she looks at things as how they will impact others. Fortunately, her feelings for me have cushioned the blow that would hit her when I tend to look at objective results rather than people-oriented results. Between her leading with extroverted sensing, combined with her extroverted feeling, coupled with introverted thinking, some people would call this type the detective. I can tell you that I would never bother to try and keep secrets from my wife, partly because I'm not one to do that, but primarily because she would know it. They say that introverted intuition works like magic, but my little detective has a nonsense detector that is flawless. She picks up on everything. When something needs to be done, she is aggressive in making it happen. When she was young, she was left in charge a lot when her parents were out of the house, and she was one of 8 kids. She can make chaotic situations work very well. She knows how to take charge when she needs to. This sometimes leads to our bumping heads, of course, because I have my own view of how things should play out, and they don't always match with hers. But love is a great comforter in times of stress, and we make it work. She tends to downplay her own intelligence, but there is no hiding the fact that she is brilliant when she needs to be. Her thinking is ready to kick in whenever it is needed. She had some bad experiences with sales when she was small. Her parents made her go door to door, and the rejection was painful for her. But as an adult, I am certain that she could make good money in real estate or in many other sales areas. She is extremely likable, highly sensitive to what other people are thinking and feeling, and mentally quick on her feet. Frankly, I am in awe at all the things she can do, and I am not in awe of that many people. She craves the world of excitement, roller coasters, or dropping 100 feet straight down on a ride at an amusement park, and she is often talking about skydiving, but has taken mercy on me and gone with my request that she not do that. We went to Disneyland on our honeymoon, and then again on a little second honeymoon 4 years later. We rode the ride Space Mountain in 1980, and it was pitch dark in there as we ran through a roller coaster ride. When she came out of the ride, she had tears running down her cheeks. I was concerned and frankly quite surprised. I thought she would love that ride, even though for me it was purely white knuckle. However, these were tears of joy, because the first words out of her mouth were, "Oh, can we do it again?" That's my ESTP. Another common ESTP characteristic is the need for new sensory input, and my wife is very active in spotting animals and interesting landmarks as we drive along. She took pictures one time on one of our trips through the Columbia River Gorge, and after the trip I found online that there is a Stonehenge reproduction in the area where we were driving. Right after I discovered this online, I went back through her pictures. Even though she didn't know the Stonehenge was there, it looked interesting to her, and she had taken a couple of pictures of it before we moved on. Of course, in this one presentation, I can't begin to convey the rich texture and multi-layered personality of this amazing woman. But when she focuses upon a job, I have never seen anyone work harder at getting it completed. When she created her popular web page, she worked day and night typing in the data for the page. I would go to sleep at night, and she would be typing in data. I would wake up in the morning to go to work, 8 hours later, and she was still typing. When she latches onto a job, she simply doesn't let go. I don't care about the personality differences that we have to work through in our life and our differing methods of coping with decisions. Why is that? Because I am head over heels in love with this woman, and she is the most incredible human I have ever known, bar none. And on top of that, she, for some crazy reason, loves me the same way. More than once, I have been hit by the idea that I must have died and gone to heaven for me to have this woman as my wife. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.